Imagine a monster, not a creature of myth and legend but one of flesh and blood, a monster hiding in plain sight. For over 30 years the BTK Killer terrorized Wichita, Kansas. He brutally murdered 10 victims, he taunted the police, he toyed with the media, then he seemed to vanish. Decades passed, the nightmare faded into memory, but the monster was not gone. He was living a normal life, right in the community he once haunted. His name was Dennis Rader. This is the story of the BTK Killer. Wichita, Kansas, a quiet city in the heartland of America. But in the 1970s that sense of security was shattered. A predator stalked the streets. His calling card? A chilling acronym, BTK. The city was paralyzed with fear. Dennis Rader, the unassuming family man, held Wichita hostage in a reign of terror that would span decades. Wichita, Kansas, the heart of the heartland, a city of wide-open spaces and friendly faces, a place where life moved at a slower pace, where neighbors knew each other by name. It was a city that embodied the American ideal, safe, secure, serene. But beneath the surface of this idyllic American city, a darkness was brewing. A darkness that would soon explode into the light, shattering the city's innocence. The heartland was about to become the hunting ground for a monster, the BTK Killer. Dennis Rader. He was a man who could easily blend into any crowd, unassuming, ordinary, forgettable. He was, by all accounts, a model citizen, a man who lived a quiet life in a quiet neighborhood, a man who went to work each day, a man who came home to his wife and children. He was a Boy Scout leader, teaching young boys the values of honesty, loyalty, and respect. No one would have ever suspected that beneath the surface of this seemingly normal man lay a dark and twisted secret. He was a master of disguise, and no one suspected a thing. Sundays were sacred in the Rader household. Dennis, his wife Paula, and their 2 children would dress in their finest attire and make their way to the Christ Lutheran Church. Dennis was more than just a parishioner. He was the church council president, a man respected by his peers. But the hymns he sang and the sermons he listened to did little to quell the darkness that festered within him. And he knew with chilling certainty that it wouldn't be long before he answered its call. The Otero family was like any other in Wichita. Joseph, the father, was a hard-working Air Force veteran. Julie, his wife, was a loving mother to their 4 children. They were a young family, full of life and dreams. They had no enemies, no reason to believe they were in danger. But on January 15, 1974, their world was shattered. Dennis Rader had been watching them, stalking them, learning their routines. He knew when Joseph left for work. He knew when the children were home from school. He knew when Julie was alone. He had planned this moment meticulously. He had chosen his victims carefully. And now, he was ready to act. Rader cut the phone lines, isolating the Oteros from the outside world. He entered the house quietly, methodically. He surprised Joseph first, overpowering him with chilling efficiency. The brutality of the crime shocked Wichita. The murders of the Otero family cast a long shadow over Wichita. The once peaceful city was now gripped by fear. Parents walked their children to school, their eyes darting nervously at every passing car. The police were working tirelessly, but the killer was always one step ahead. He left no trace, no fingerprints, no DNA. The citizens of Wichita felt helpless, trapped in a nightmare they couldn't wake up from. The city held its breath, waiting, wondering when and where the monster would strike again. Dennis Rader took a perverse pleasure in the fear he had unleashed. He relished the headlines, the police sketches, the terrified whispers that followed his name. He felt a godlike power, a sense of control over the lives of those around him. He was the face of evil hiding behind a mask of normalcy, and he was far from finished with Wichita. Dennis Rader craved recognition. He wasn't content with just killing. He needed to be heard. He needed to be seen. He needed to know that the world trembled at his power. So he wrote letters. Disturbing, chilling letters. Letters signed simply, BTK. He sent them to the police. He sent them to the newspapers. He sent them to the TV stations. He detailed his crimes, boasting about his methods, reveling in the terror he had inflicted. Wichita recoiled in horror. The letters were a window into the mind of a madman. They were a constant reminder that the monster was still out there, watching, waiting, playing his twisted game. The police were desperate. Each letter was a taunt, a slap in the face. BTK's letters were more than just confessions. They were invitations. Invitations to a twisted game of cat and mouse. He taunted the police, challenging them to catch him, daring them to understand him. He wanted to be chased, to be pursued, to prove his superiority. He toyed with them, relishing the power he held over them. Then, just as suddenly as it began, the terror stopped, the letters ceased. The phone calls ended. BTK, the phantom who had haunted Wichita for a decade, vanished. The city breathed a collective sigh of relief. Had BTK finally moved on? Had he died? Had he been arrested for another crime? Theories abounded, but no one knew for sure. The monster was gone, but the fear lingered. The scars he had left on Wichita ran deep. The police never gave up hope of catching BTK. The case remained open, a constant reminder of the city's brush with evil. But as the years turned into decades, the trail went cold. Life went on in Wichita, but for those who had lived through the nightmare, the fear never truly went away. For years, the Wichita Police Department had been chasing ghosts. They had pored over evidence, interviewed countless suspects, and followed every lead, no matter how small. But BTK remained an enigma, a phantom that seemed to exist only in the shadows. The case had gone cold, but the embers of frustration still burned within the hearts of those who had dedicated their lives to bringing the killer to justice. The families of his victims deserved justice. The city of Wichita deserved closure. But how do you catch a ghost? The advent of DNA technology revolutionized criminal investigations, offering a new way to identify suspects and connect them to crime scenes. What was once considered science fiction had become a reality, and for the investigators of the BTK case, it represented a renewed hope for justice. They meticulously reviewed the evidence, searching for any biological material that could be tested using these groundbreaking techniques. The samples they had collected years ago, once considered useless, now held the potential to break the case wide open. Each test tube, each swab, each microscopic piece of evidence was handled with the utmost care, knowing that it could be the key to finally unmasking the elusive BTK. The pressure was immense, but the investigators remained steadfast in their pursuit of the truth. They would use every tool at their disposal, every advancement in forensic science to ensure that justice, though delayed, would ultimately be served. The wheels of justice were turning, slowly but surely, and BTK's days of anonymity were numbered. In 2004, after years of agonizing silence, BTK resurfaced. He couldn't help himself. The urge to taunt, to terrorize, to remind Wichita of his power proved too strong. He began sending letters again, this time with a new level of arrogance, believing he was invincible, beyond the reach of the law. He misjudged the determination of the Wichita Police Department and the advancements they had made in forensic technology. They had been waiting for this moment, anticipating his return, and they were ready. They saw his arrogance as their opportunity, his need for attention as his fatal flaw. BTK, in his delusion, made a critical mistake. He wanted to know if the police could trace a floppy disk. The investigators, seizing their chance, assured him they couldn't. His ego inflated, he fell into their trap. The disk he sent, intended as a taunt, became his undoing. The analysis revealed metadata, a digital fingerprint, linking the disk to a church computer and an account under the name Dennis. It was the break they had been waiting for, the one detail that shattered his carefully constructed facade. The mask was slipping, and the face of a monster was about to be revealed. The name Dennis echoed through the halls of the Wichita Police Department, a beacon of hope in a case shrouded in darkness for too long. Investigators ran the name through their databases, praying for a match, a connection, anything to lead them to the monster haunting their city. Their search led them to Dennis Rader, an unassuming church council president, living a seemingly ordinary life in Wichita. Could this be their BTK, hiding in plain sight, Concealed by normalcy and piety, they delved into Rader's background, piecing together his life, searching for any inconsistencies, any red flags. The evidence, though circumstantial, began to mount, forming a disturbing picture. The walls were closing in on Dennis Rader, the net of justice tightening around him. The investigators knew they had to proceed cautiously. One wrong move, one misstep, could tip off their suspect and send him running, potentially burying the truth forever. They had one chance to get it right, to bring closure to a community held captive by fear for too long. The walls were closing in on Dennis Rader, the net of justice tightening around him with each passing moment. The investigators, their faces grim, knew they had to proceed cautiously. One wrong move, one misstep could tip off their suspect and send him running, potentially burying the truth forever. They had one chance to get it right, to bring closure to a community held captive by fear for too long. Section 2. Unmasking the monster. The DNA evidence was irrefutable. It was the smoking gun, the irrefutable proof that shattered Dennis Rader's carefully constructed facade and exposed the monster he had kept hidden for so long. The match to the crime scenes was a perfect match, leaving no room for doubt, no possibility of error. On February 25, 2005, after years of meticulous investigation, the Wichita Police Department finally made their move. They arrested Dennis Rader, the unassuming church leader, the Boy Scout volunteer, the man who had lived among them for all these years, concealing his dark secret behind a mask of normalcy. The news of Rader's arrest sent shockwaves through Wichita, a city that had long been haunted by the specter of BTK. Their seemingly ordinary neighbor, the man they had sat next to in church, the man who had helped their children with their scout badges, was the monster who had terrorized their community for decades. The arrest marked the end of one of the longest and most baffling manhunts in American history, but it also marked the beginning of a painful reckoning, as Wichita grappled with the realization that the monster they had feared for so long was not some shadowy boogeyman, but a seemingly ordinary man who had lived among them, hiding in plain sight. Section 3. Inside the Mind of a Killer. Dennis Rader's capture sent shockwaves through the world of criminal psychology. How could a man who seemingly lived such an ordinary life, a man who was a pillar of his community, be capable of such horrific acts of violence? The question lingered in the air, a chilling reminder of the deceptive nature of evil. Rader, in his chilling confessions, revealed a mind consumed by darkness, a psyche wired for both normalcy and depravity. He spoke of his crimes with a chilling detachment, detailing his methods, his motivations, his perverse satisfaction in the fear he had instilled in his victims. Experts have since labeled Rader a sexual sadist, a man who derived pleasure from the suffering of others. His crimes, they believe, were not merely acts of violence, but carefully orchestrated rituals designed to fulfill his twisted desires. The case of Dennis Rader, the BTK Killer, serves as a stark reminder that evil can lurk beneath the most unassuming facades. It is a chilling testament to the human capacity for both good and evil, and the terrifying reality that sometimes, the monsters we fear most are the ones who live closest to us. Section 1. The Monster Next Door. The BTK Killer case stands as a chilling testament to the duality of human nature. Dennis Rader, a man who lived a seemingly ordinary life, concealed a dark secret that would haunt the city of Wichita for decades. He was the monster next door, the boogeyman who lurked not in the shadows, but in plain sight. He shattered the illusion of safety and security, reminding us that evil can wear many masks, often those of normalcy and respectability. Rader's ability to compartmentalize his life, to separate his horrific crimes from his roles as a husband, father, church leader, and Boy Scout volunteer, is a chilling reminder of the complexities of the human psyche. He was a predator who walked among his prey, a wolf in sheep's clothing, masterful in his deception, leaving a trail of pain, fear, and unanswered questions in his wake. The capture and conviction of Dennis Rader brought a sense of closure to the families of his victims and to the city of Wichita, but the scars of his crimes run deep. The fear he instilled, the lives he shattered, and the sense of vulnerability he awakened continue to resonate within the community, a haunting reminder of the fragility of peace and the ever-present potential for darkness to emerge from the shadows. Section 2. The Echoes of Terror. The BTK Killer case continues to fascinate and horrify. Rader's meticulous planning, his taunting letters, his insatiable need for recognition, and his ability to evade capture for so long have made him a subject of endless analysis. His case challenges and intrigues criminologists and psychologists alike. The echoes of BTK's terror extend beyond Wichita, reminding us of the vulnerability of even the safest communities. His case highlights the importance of vigilance and the need for open communication between law enforcement and the public. The story of the BTK Killer is a cautionary tale, a chilling reminder that monsters can hide in plain sight, concealed by seemingly ordinary lives. It compels us to confront the darkness within the human heart, while acknowledging the resilience of the human spirit. The case of Dennis Rader, the BTK Killer, will forever be a dark chapter in Wichita's history, but it is also a testament to the enduring power of hope and the unwavering pursuit of justice. Even in the darkest times, light will ultimately prevail. Gap 3S, Section 2, The Legacy of Fear. The impact of Dennis Rader's heinous acts extends beyond the immediate horror of his crimes. The BTK Killer's reign of terror cast a long shadow over the city of Wichita, leaving scars that time alone cannot heal. Families were shattered, communities were shaken, and the collective sense of safety was forever altered. Yet, from the depths of despair, a profound resilience emerged. The survivors, the families of the victims, and the entire community found ways to rebuild and reclaim their sense of normalcy. Law enforcement agencies learned invaluable lessons, improving their methods to prevent such horrors from recurring. Rader's capture and subsequent conviction marked a victory for justice, but the echoes of his terror serve as a sobering reminder of the fragility of peace. The story of the BTK Killer is not just a tale of darkness but also one of light, the unwavering determination of those who refuse to let evil prevail. As we reflect on this dark chapter, we must also acknowledge the strength and courage of those who lived through it. They remind us that even in the face of unimaginable evil, the human spirit is capable of enduring and overcoming. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our channel, leave a comment, and give us a thumbs up. Your support helps us create more content like this.